case and I saw it. Why hasn't it been made?
Did a shaft of light appear in the book?
It was a bit like that, yeah. I was, I just looked up and went, oh, high-rise, I love high-rise. Where's the film for high-rise? And I can look at a lot of the books on the bookshelf and not think that, go, loads of these have all been made. So it was just a very quick, I emailed my agent and he said, oh, Jeremy Thomas has got it. And then within 3 days I was looking at the typewriter from Naked Lunch in Jeremy Thomas's office, which is quite insane, yeah.
So why high-rise in particular?
Oh, it's a book I'd read as a kid and I loved, and when I went back to it, it seemed like it had been... it's a book that it seemed like it was written yesterday, or plucked from the pages of the newspaper, so I thought that's why it had to be done, made.
And Tom, you were on Ben's fridge for a while. Not you, literally, but your picture when Ben and they were casting the film. What was it about this role that attracted you? Lang is quite passive, inward-looking role. How that character appeal to you?
I found his tension very fascinating. And it's interesting just in the context of the rest of Ballard's work. Ballard himself had studied medicine at Cambridge for 3 years before leaving to then become a writer. And it's interesting, there's a lot of doctors in his work, and here was this doctor, someone who's professionally detached, who's challenged to engage with what's happening. And I just found that character really compelling. And I'm also a huge admirer of Ben. And what's to
really standing close to you on this, yeah.
I would say that. I found the combination of Ben, what I understood as Ben's sensibility as a filmmaker, and Ballard, a really amazing cocktail, and just wanted to be part of it. And we met and talked about it, and then I went to watch an autopsy.
Oh, okay. Why?
Yeah, sorry, just throw that in there.
I mean, normal Wednesday.
Well, firstly, it was very important to me to represent the dissection of the severed head in a real way, and wanted to do that truthfully, as doctors do. But also, I understood something of the. I think it's a very. If you'll forgive me for saying it, Ben, but I think it's a very Ballardian moment. I think I read his autobiography. Called Miracles of Life, and there's an amazing bit where he's a child and he's taken through Shanghai, which has been bombed, and parts of it are deserted, parts of it which were once populous and glamorous and sort of exciting, were sort of shells of their former life. And he talks about reality as a stage set which can be dismantled at any time. And in a way, there's something of Ballard's excavation of the human condition like that. He's saying, who are we behind the mask of our manners, the mask of our civilization? And so I had this very disturbing afternoon with a forensic pathologist watching a body be cut open. And I found his detachment fascinating. He was one of the top pathologists in the country. Someone whose job it is to determine the cause of death, and the way he talked about personality and about mental disorder, mental health, the symptoms of mental dysfunction, and how that registers in the human body, just related in a fascinating way to what I think Ballard was digging around in his material.
You offered me to go and see an autopsy, and I said no. One scene is never unseen.
In case you do a Quincy and just fall over. Sienna, did you attend an autopsy? What research did you do?
No one wants to follow Thomas in a Q&A. I just like to put it out there. Already, you peaked, all right? No, I didn't go to any autopsies. Although I would have been up for it. Thank you.
If anyone's doing an autopsy afterwards, just contact Sienna. So what research did you do to get into the mindset of Charlotte for this?
I read the book, and...
That's not like going to an autopsy. That's a lot easier than going to an autopsy.
Yes. Well, no, I had kind of extensive conversations with these two, and Jeremy Thomas, who is really the most exciting producer in England. I mean, it's extraordinary the work that he gets behind and the films that he gets made, because this probably should have been made a while ago and hasn't been, because no one's really brave enough to tackle something this weird and enormous and important. So it's a shout out for JT. But other than that, yeah. I thought about what it would be like to be a really detached, selfish, mercurial woman, and I jumped right in. I'm really kidding. I'm hoping because it's England that you'll get it.
All that Toronto.
You wouldn't call that in America. Which it is.
Elisabeth, what about you? Was Ben the way in for you for this movie?
Yeah, I was a huge fan of his, and was a fan of his before reading the script, and then afterwards, obviously, was an even greater fan. And I just really wanted to be in a Ben Wheatley movie, and I sort of thought, being the only American, there's no way I was going to be in it. And then they, for some reason, gave it to me, which I was ecstatic about. I was so excited when I got the part, and had the pleasure of working with all these incredible actors, and Ben far exceeded my expectations on set, and it was a really, as crazy and chaotic and dark as the film is, we had so much fun making it. It sounds really sick, but we did. It was so fun, wasn't it? I mean, it really was. It was a familial atmosphere. It felt like we were doing something naughty over in Ireland, you know. That it was great, and I just had a great experience.
Don't give it all away.
How the locals in Bangor, Northern Ireland, to take you? He said his accent getting bigger, as he said. Were they aware that something naughty was going on?
We were intrigued. We would arrive in the morning, because of the way we shot it, we would arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning and emerge at 6 o'clock at night. And we shot it in Bangor Leisure Centre. And they would turn up and wave, and we would, through the course of the day, we'd all emerge, in a sort of progressive state of disarray.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, yeah.
People asking questions about why there was so much paint on me, and then we would go down to the seaside for a Scotch egg. Honestly, that's what we did. Go to the Salty Dog, best Scotch eggs in the land.
And just check out a local autopsy. We have some questions that people can send in via Twitter via the hashtag LFFquestions. Here's one from @LittleMissia, probably not her real name. Off to London to see High Rise. Can you confirm no dogs were eaten or hurt in the making of this film?
There's a strict rule about like not murdering stuff. Also, no one smoked any real cigarettes, no drinking, no one died. The actors that died in the film are still alive. No, we didn't kill any dogs.
Okay.
Quite expensive puppet. Actually, it was one of the vagaries of the budget was that he wouldn't stretch to a full Afghan. So the scene where they cover him with a blanket, I'd like to say it was an artistic decision, but the rest of the dog there. Horrible.
Okay, here's one for the actors from @J Colkhorst. Did making High Rise have a lasting effect on his actors? Was it difficult not to lose yourselves in the madness?
Oh.
It felt like I said, we didn't go mad. It felt like, honestly, it felt like we were given a box of fireworks and told not to get into too much trouble. Because we were doing this 9 to 5 job. I mean, it's the strangest 9 to 5 job I think anyone's ever seen. But no, it didn't have a lasting effect. Although we shot the supermarket fight on my last day, and it took about a week for the bruises to go down. It's a pretty intense day.
Sienna, Elisabeth, did you survive without succumbing to madness?
Yeah, I think so. You're already there. It's hard to come back from, I think. I feel like I'm going to stand up like an awful stand-up. It's really nice. It's such a strange thing. No, it wasn't. It was actually kind of strangely wholesome, and like Tom said, that's weird. Damaged human. It was really cozy. Ian familiar. We all lived in this mad hotel all together, and we were a pack. We kind of were all on set every day in funny caravans and car park, covered in blood and bruises and paint, and running around like kids. It was really special. But we all
go to
survived.
dinner a lot,
Have Scotch.
Yeah, and have Scotch eggs. We all stayed in the same place, and you'd run into people in the lobby or at the gym, and it was like a camp.
Okay. Here's one from Lady Fernie, who says, "How do you think you'd all survive?" You're in this one too, then. You'd all survive in a high-rise building in real life.
In real life, I don't think it would turn out like that. I'd probably spend a lot of time moaning about the lift not working. And enjoying the view.
Oh, that's nice. So Ben survives. Tom?
Yeah, my general experience of being in tall buildings has been better than this one. And I don't try to pick the walls. I think if I moved in here, around the first morning, I think about moving out. Quiet move.
Sienna, would you survive?
I would survive. I mean, I don't know. No, I mean it's film. No, I don't. Yeah, I think
It's a multiple choice.
I don't. Would I survive in that scenario? Or?
Yeah.
No. No one would. No one did.
Yeah, me neither. I would have moved out and stayed in a hotel after one night. I think this is not for me.
It's a very different film, wouldn't it? This is rubbish.
The last question is from Yogi Arty. What prompted you to pick Northern Ireland as the location to film? And what was the attraction of the Bangor Leisure Centre?
We were looking for a genuine 1970s building that had brutalist architecture and hadn't been either remodeled or knocked down. And like most up and down England, they'd been basically pulled down, or they'd been clad in marble, which seems weird. But, or they're really active kind of buildings that it would be possible to shoot in. So in the end, we went to after an exhaustive search. This is fascinating stories. How I found back the leisure centre, and then we went there, and the leisure centre was interesting because it had been closed down, but it was next to a police station, and it had never been refurbished since the 70s, and it had never been vandalised. If you'd been in London, it would have just been fucked after about 10 years. But because it was there next to a police station, it was exactly how it was. And so we went in there and, oh my God, this is it, this is perfect. And it was very important that it was a space that was a real 70s space that then we built inside of, rather than we left it completely up to our imagination. So the 70s was there in some way. So some of the corridors are there, and some of the bits and bobs are there. The swimming pool's obviously real, and the squash courts and all that stuff, but the flats were then built inside like the five-side football area.
And